Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. All across North America, all of you executive leaders in the public works arena, from all across. I just lost my train of thought of what cities I was going to say. But hey, man, welcome. Coaching session today. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk specifically about pride in just a moment. But before we do that, a couple of housekeeping issues. First of all, you're going to be, either you have gotten or you will be getting in the next few days, an accountability report. That accountability report gives you a snapshot of the participation levels of your people. Now, I want to be clear about it. One, it doesn't tell us, well, let me tell you what it does tell us. It tells us people that have opened the emails, people that have turned in the assignments. That's what it tells us. Now, the challenge is if somebody's been out or if somebody was on vacation and they came back and looked at the archives, opened the emails as archives and the like, then it won't tell us that. It'll only tell us that when it was sent to them, did they open it, did they watch the video, that kind of a thing. So it will give you a snapshot of participation, a snapshot. You have to take that snapshot with a grain of salt and determine, first of all, what was the expectation? Was participation compulsory to, hey, everybody's going to participate, or was it up to them to participate? So you're going to have to decide the level of expectation, or you had already decided the level of expectation, and then you'll decide how to use this tool, but we'll send it to you. It's going to give you an outline, if we haven't already, an outline of people's participation level. At the end, as we discussed at the beginning, at the end we're going to provide you with a certificate, a template of a certificate, and you can give that out as you will. Now, in some departments, they formally give out the certificate. They put it in a frame and they hand it to the employees that have completed the program. Now, completed the program, again, is up to you. That's up to you, because whatever the level of expectation is, we'll give you the tools to evaluate. You set the level of expectation, we'll give you the certificate, and then you can determine what you do with it. So we'll give you the information and a template for a certificate. You do as you will. As I said a moment ago, some departments make it a formal thing, give it out at their quarterly meetings, give it out at their annual meetings, give it out at their monthly meetings, whatever it is. Make a big to-do of it. Others make the certificate available for participation. Others do nothing with it. I think that do nothing with it is probably a mistake. If somebody has put in the time and energy, put in the assignments, 90 to 100% or 85 to 100% of the time they've participated, and they've diligently gotten after it, and you've seen improved performance, no better way to reward that than that certificate. And it says APWA on it and so on and so forth. But it also, because it is a template, you can put your organizational logo on it. You as the director or the executive leader can sign it. You can make it a big deal and hand it to them, certificate of completion of the program. Hey, 15-week training program, it's a big deal. They put in the time, they put in the energy. And actually, that's going to dovetail very nicely when we talk about pride here in just a moment. Okay, if you want, email in your questions to questions@thechangingpoint.com. You can text Melody the questions. As always, we'll get to all the questions. If I don't get to them here in our conversation, I certainly will email you back or get back to you on my reflections. Now, with some of the emails, we got 4,000 or 5,000 people participating in the program, so sometimes it does take me a little bit of time, but I'll eventually get to everybody's question. If it's urgent and you have an immediate matter that you'd like a little bit of information or insight on, then just put that. Hey, I need to know this is happening right now. Give me your opinion, give me your insight, then I'll happily respond. At the beginning of the week, I talked to you about life's 5 most urgent questions. Life's 5 most urgent questions. When we started the program, I really tried to make the case of you as a community builder. And really what that means is leader. And that you don't just lead in your 4 walls, but you lead throughout your community. You're in a position of authority. You're in a position of influence. You oversee large budgets. And depending on if you're in a big municipality or small rural community, relatively speaking, your budgets are still large. You're an important department. You are a leader, an executive leader, a person of significant influence in your community. And you say, well, I'm not a person of significant influence. Well, your position should be. And refer back to our Agent of Change, expanding our sphere of influence, if that's how you feel about the role that you play in your community. Well, I'm betting on you. I'm literally betting on you. In this thing called life, and in these changing times, we better have strategies to build out and create the communities we'd all want to live in. And we better have strategies for defeating the social ills and the apathy and the social challenges and the material challenges that we face today. And your role in that is that you oversee the platform, the infrastructure, and the framework for a civil society to happen. And so we need leaders who are on their best of their game and aren't just influencing within their four walls, but outside. So when I say my bet's on you, I mean that I'm counting on people like you all across North America, and now that I'm a part of Australia, I'm counting on you guys and gals to go out and be great leaders. And what does that mean? Well, I know for a fact that when 1, 2, 8, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30, whatever it is, local people of influence get on fire about something, begin to marshal human capital, begin to do all the things that we've talked about in the past weeks, I know improvement occurs. Sustained improvement occurs. And again, not just in the department, but throughout. There's something about having a community builder in a room, because community builders make things happen. And when I use that term, remember, I'm talking about a philosophy, an approach, a way of being. So my bet's on you. And in the United States, my bet's on you to turn this ship in the right direction, to engage our staff, get the best from them, to marshal human capital of the various stakeholders in the community, to have discussions and meetings and talks with people of influence so that we put resources into infrastructure, so that we have a sound platform for community to happen. You know, all of those aspects of what you do. You know budgets, you know facilities, you know roads and bridges, you know water. The next thing is community building. Marshaling the human capital of various stakeholders towards a common goal. With all of that said, with that long-winded dissertation and pontification, I know. It takes me 20 minutes to say what I could say in 3. Sorry. With all that said, one of the keys to being that kind of leader, that leader in changing times, that transformational leader, in my opinion, in today's day and age, to be able to marshal the human capital, that person needs to know where they're going. That person needs to be intentional in the exercise. That person needs to have vision and purpose for a myriad of reasons, including that it will be difficult. And if you don't have a compelling motivator, a compelling why in your gut and in your belly, it will become too difficult. And in addition to that, by having that lighthouse that you're pointing to, it's easy to make priority decisions. It's easy to stay on task. It's easy to be a leader. It's easier to be a leader of integrity, values-based, on and on and on and on and on. There's a myriad of reasons why. So that life's long circle. So that life's 5 most urgent questions is about that. It's about that. It's about helping you in the last 8 weeks of this program, 7-8 weeks of this program. It's about helping you leave this thing either refocused on the thing that drove you In other words, you might have lost it a little bit, but you refocused it. Or to recalibrate, which might mean, hey, my focus was here, but it needs to be there. Or to think about those 5 questions because you've never thought about them before. We need leaders that are outwardly focused, not inwardly focused. We need leaders that are intentional about the role they play in their family, with those that they lead, with those that they serve, within their organization, and the legacy that they will leave. We need those kind of leaders today. And I'm not talking about on the political level. Don't jump there, because that's not how it's going to get done anyways. It gets done on the grassroots level. It gets done in community after community after community. And then the cumulative effect of all those great communities is a great nation or a great North America or a great whatever. But where does it begin? Macro change happens on a micro level. It starts with you. It starts with you. That's why I say my bet's on you. What will be your greatest contribution to your family? What will be your greatest contribution to those that you lead? What will be your greatest contribution to those that you serve? What's that dual role? We serve and lead. What will be your greatest contribution to the organization you're leading right now? And what will be your greatest contribution to society? And I challenge you, think through those 5 questions and send them to me. Now, I'm not going to share them with anybody else. But there's something when you share it with another human being. There's something about it. And so take a couple weeks. But before we're done with this gig, before we're done with our time together, I challenge you to think through those 5 things. Because in the balance of those questions, in my opinion, is a better life for somebody. And whether that somebody's in your house, or that somebody's in your neighborhood, or that somebody's in your workplace, or that somebody is somebody you'll never meet or know. You're a community builder. You have that kind of scope and impact and reach. People you never see, you never meet, you never talk to, you impact them, either directly or indirectly, either you directly or through your department, which you influence directly. You cast a wide berth, baby, and in your wake there is stuff. Now, I don't know if that stuff is good or bad. I don't know if that stuff is lasting or not. I don't know. But there's not a question that there's not something in your wake. Every thought that you think, every word that you speak, every action that you take plants a seed into the universe. And that seed will bear fruit. And that's expanded and exasperated when you're in a position of leadership. You're on a rant, perhaps. Answer the 5 most urgent questions. All right, let's. I know that Melody had some questions. We'll try to get to those, but I want to talk about pride. Pride. You hear me say it all the time, marshaling human capital. When I was in a position of executive leadership, had a lot of people, we went through a difficult economic time, I had to figure out a way to get more with less. And I returned to where I always return. People. People. And if I could find a way to get people to give me a little bit more, and I don't mean they worked harder, but maybe they worked a little smarter, a little bit more efficiently, or maybe they were more innovative, or they were more creative. Maybe they were trying to figure out ways to decrease expenses while still expanding the services that we provide. So I don't want you to think that when I say work harder, it was necessarily they sweated more. Maybe they were just more creative. But you know what it boiled down to for me? It boiled down to, for me, marshaling human capital. And you know what that boiled down to for me? What were the forms of human capital? Creativity, innovation, as I mentioned a second ago. Love is a form of human capital, as is pride. When we talked about being a catalyst for responsibility, we talked about delegation. We talked about buy-in. And we also mentioned pride. And I told you that in the coaching session, I was going to take an expanded amount of time, basically take a teaching amount of time, to talk about this form of human capital called pride. Now, the fact of the matter is, you know what I'm talking about. You wouldn't be in a position of executive leadership if you didn't in some way understand pride. If you didn't take pride in your work, if you didn't take pride in your department, if you didn't take pride, frankly, maybe that was taught by a grandparent. Maybe that was instilled in you by your dad or your mom. Or maybe it was a coach or a former boss. Or maybe you just, when you popped out, you just had it. I don't know. But I would suggest that you probably, as an executive leader, somewhere along the way, grab that thing called pride. And that's what makes you stay up a little bit late to make sure the report is done correctly. That's what makes you come in a little bit earlier, put the time in on the weekend. You want to do it right. You want to do it well. And you haven't just started doing it when you got elevated to the executive leader's position. You were doing it all the way along the way. That's what got you to the executive leader's position. Somewhere in you, there's some pride. Now, what do I mean by that? What do I mean by pride? I mean the guy or the gal that says, this is my work and I want it to be great because it's my work. Or this is my department and I want it to be great because it's my department. Not an arrogance. Now, the funny thing about pride is that we can't touch it, but we sure see it in action, don't we? We sure see it in action. We see guys and gals that take pride. Organizational pride, what does it do? Well, look at that handout. Remember the handout? Loyalty to the organization. That's what people give their best to the organization. Higher morale. Increased participation in problem solving. And that the department is mine. It's me mentality. And people go the extra mile. They're trying to look for ways, find ways. Not just going through the routine of their job. That's when we see pride, organizational pride in play. How about individual pride? That's when the guy takes pride or the gal takes pride in their specific task. Lower absenteeism. More times than not, they exceed performance standards without being micromanaged, so they take less effort to manage them. They're routinely innovative and creative. They're coming to you with the ideas of how they can improve the thing. There's less stress. Pride. Well, the funny thing is, when I talk about pride, most people go like this, yeah, you're right. Pride's a big deal. Wish we had more people with it. Wish I could make it happen. Why don't people just take pride in their work? Well, I don't want to go into a whole social discussion, but somewhere along the way, that wasn't as instilled as much anymore, cultivated as much anymore, deployed as much anymore. So way back in the day, I said to myself, I better learn this thing called pride. I better come up with a plan, a strategic and intentional plan for the development of pride. Because more than any other form of human capital, in my opinion, if I can cultivate it, instill it, and deploy it, I'm going to get a greater return for my investment. I'm going to get a greater return for my investment than just about anything else than maybe love. So pride. So I want to go through this flow chart, because what I try to do is take pride, this very intangible, nebulous, and break it down into a very linear, step-by-step formula that I think at the end of will increase pride. Now, first of all, there's two forms of pride, and it's important to make the distinction between the two. There's organizational pride. That's the one side of your departmental pride on one side of the flow chart. And then there's individual pride. And I would suggest to you we need to have strategies for both. Concepts, ideas, programs for both. Oh, are you talking about morale? Are you talking about people feeling good about their work? No. That is a part of it. But it's bigger than that. It's multifaceted, as you can see. So, pride is a form of human and organizational capital. The challenge is how do we instill it, use it, maximize it throughout the department. On the individual side, on the departmental side. So let's work departmental first. Let's work big picture first. Here are the steps that I would recommend and some of the keys to building departmental pride, organizational pride. The first thing is we've got to establish why the work we do is important, its value and its impact on the community. In other words, the why. So next to that little box, write why. Now what do you mean by that? Well, we've got to routinely communicate with people that the work that we do is important, that the work that we do has value. Evangelizing the message of the why of the task. Here's, maybe make it a little bit clearer. We've got to be able to explain to people the important role the department plays. That's why I'm always using that big language about infrastructure, framework, platform. And whether you talk about the amount of commerce that goes over the roads, the number of kids that go over the bridges, whether you talk about the value of clean and safe water, whether you talk about the generational impact of your work, whether you talk about the importance of instilling confidence in governmental institutions, on and on and on and on and on. Somehow, we've got to show how our department fits into the bigger cosmos called community. Well, people should just understand that. They don't understand that. Well, people should just know it. They don't know it. You have got to physically connect the dots for them. You can't assume that they get it. I would suggest to you that there has to be regular, scheduled, and routine ways that you articulate the mighty purpose of your department. And I think it has to be regularly. There's some department heads that I know, executive leaders that I know, that meet every year with every employee and have that big picture conversation. Many do it at the beginning of the year, this time of the year, where they go and meet with every employee, sitting them down, looking them in the eye, talking with them, explaining the value and the meaning and the purpose of this work, the impact that it makes, and on and on and on. I know one guy down in Florida, what he does is he not only meets routinely with the current employees, but any new hire. I know it's hard to believe that they're hiring any new people, but any new hire, he meets with them. He's got a big department. He's got hundreds of employees, but any new hire, he meets with them within the first few weeks of their employment. Talks to them about the importance of their work. Talks to them about the importance of the department. Talks about them, why the department is important. How are you doing that? How are you regularly, routinely doing that? Now, here's the funny thing. Look at the other side. If I don't think my work is important, if I don't think the department's important, if I don't think any of what we do is important, then I can't understand why you're freaking out about wanting me to give my best. I can't understand why there's all this talk about we got to do a great job. Because if my work's not important, I'm going to go through it half-assed. Well, they should take pride in their work. Give them a reason to. Show them the importance and the value and the impact regularly. Okay, next step. Regularly reinforce the value. And this is a nuance, but it's important because we miss it. We've got to show them that we're any good at it. In other words, it could sound like this. Well, yeah, it's true. This work is really, really important. Yeah, that's true. But we suck at it. We're no good at it. It's true we make a significant impact. Too bad we're just not doing it very well. Huh? Well, listen to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there is a nuance between that the work is important and that we're good at the work. The work is important, but now I've got to show you that we are good at it. How do we do that? Well, one way, APWA accreditation, right? However, if we don't explain to the employees, if all the executive leaders get APWA accreditation, but we don't have some way of filtering that out and really using it as a tool to build pride, then the employees and the mid-level leaders go like this: why are we doing all this work for this dumb accreditation? Unless we've really explain the impact. Go back to our buy-in discussion, the relevance, the impact, the quality. So the bottom line is, how am I on a regular basis showing people that our work is of quality? What baseline have we established that we're scoring ourselves against? Now, here's the funny thing. I would suggest to you that it doesn't have to be, it could be something we come up with in-house. It could be something where we grade the cleanliness of our facilities. I've seen departments where one zone or one region will go and inspect another zone and region, and then they'll come and inspect over here. And they've set an internal standard, and they score or grade each other on an internal standard. And it's fun, and it's interesting, and we celebrate. So what is that baseline standard that lets people know where they stand? Now, that could be the goals for the year. They could be budgetary. They could be projects. They could be customer service, if you do customer service surveys and things of that nature. But what are the scorecards that allow me to do this? Yeah! That allow me to do this. Ooh, man, we can do that a little bit better. See, that's the funny thing. Once we've established a standard, people will judge themselves to the standard. You don't have to say a word. Yep, that's the national standard for safety. And we're below it. Yep, that's the internal standard that we've set for quality service. And we're above it. Well done. And then from my perspective, that why we're important moves to the next box. That why we as a department are important moves to the next box, which is establish why we are any good. That's some way of reinforcing that we're any good. And then establish a department-wide measurement for the effectiveness of the department. So that's a natural flow. Measurement is good. Accountability is good. Because if we don't have some kind of measurement, some kind of baseline standard, we rob people of the opportunity for a feeling of victory. And feelings of victory lead to feelings of pride. And feelings of victory lead to feelings of accomplishment, self-esteem, and self-worth. All of these victories lead to organizational pride. Our work is important, and how I do it, how we do it, we're good at it. And how do I know we're good at it? Not because the boss tells me, but because I know we're being measured to these standards as a department. And again, they could be ones you make up internally, or they could be standards that you have grabbed from some other department, or standards that you've grabbed nationally or internationally. Either way, have some. Somehow you've got to regularly communicate how we're doing. What are the ways that you regularly communicate? Well, typically I hear this. Typically I hear, well, one of the ways is I post any positive comments. It's good. I send out a regular update. Good. I have a newsletter. We have an internal newsletter. Good. So there's a lot of different things that you could do, and I would suggest you need to do all of them. Otherwise, work becomes a grind. Work becomes just it's a series of Wednesdays, 2 more days to go. It's a series of Wednesdays, 2 more days to go. It's a series of Wednesdays, 2 more days to go. You don't want life to get like that. So one way to stop life, or at least work aggressively to mitigate the risk of life getting like that, is that we take some time, and whether that's weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually, to stop the bus and say, here's how we're doing as a department. I communicated with you at the beginning of the year that these were our departmental goals, and here's where we're at. See, I think there is a thing about vicarious pride. And forgive me for using a sports analogy, but the offense takes pride in how effective the defense is. The defense takes pride in how effective the offense is. And they both take pride on how effective the special teams are. There is a vicarious pride that occurs. And there is a level of excellence. We rise to that level of excellence. So celebrating and communicating, or communicating and celebrating people's effectiveness, I think is paramount. And doing it on a regular basis. Like, here's a couple examples. Certainly a newsletter would be a way to communicate above and beyond. One thing that I did was I asked all my direct reports every week when I met with them to tell me about somebody that was doing something good in their community, in their department or in their subgroup. Somebody that was doing something good. Somebody that was doing something positive. Somebody that was going above and beyond. I called it Eagle of the Week. And so every week, I had 45 direct reports. They'd come into me and tell me. We'd have a big group meeting, and I would expect each one of them to tell me of somebody who was somebody that did something great. And then I would take that Eagle of the Week, and I'd send them a written note, a handwritten note. Little card, handwritten note, put an envelope, interdepartmental mail. It went out to them. So that every week, at least 45 people were getting a note from me thanking me for their hard work. Ian, when in the world did you have time to write 45 handwritten notes? Well, it's what I said to you before. Like we talked about with time. I felt like that was going to provide a great return on my investment on a number of different levels. One, that the big boss knew that you were doing a good job. Two, that they could have confidence that that good job was being relayed by their supervisor and their manager. Three, other people would see that. Other people would see that I took the time to write. And the implication is if I know of the good things that are going on furthest away from me, I probably know of the things that aren't so great. I know what's going on. So I felt like it killed a lot of different birds with one stone. It was a high return on investment activity. That by hearing those Eagle stories and by writing those notes, I made a significant impact. Now what's funny is, as time went along, and we literally did it every week, I would start walking through my organization and I would hear employees yelling at me. Hey, do you see what I did? Eagle of the Week. Come on now, Eagle of the Week. And you'd say, yeah, they were mocking it. Well, yeah, of course they were mocking it. In such a way that they were talking about it, thinking about it, that it was in their vernacular. It was on their radar screen. That was okay with me because it was better than this. Here comes that stupid boss I hate. Or that guy never talks to me. It provided a conduit for many, many things to occur. Now, I'm not saying you should do that. I'm not. I'm just giving you an example. But I am saying this. How are you regularly, consistently, and intentionally communicating above and beyond performance? Because it is in that communication that pride is fostered. Organizational pride. Why is what we do important? People ridicule, people attack, people demean us. You got to come against that. You got to communicate to your people why what you do is important. And whether that's an annual meeting or quarterly or who knows what. And whether that's long-term employees or new hires. Then, in my opinion, you must regularly communicate why we are any good at that important work. That implies that there's some kind of measurement. That's the next step. That there's some kind of standard that we're working off of as a department. And again, they could be internally created that you pulled out of your behind, just as long as they have some sound logic to them. Or they could be APWA standards or industry standards or regional standards or whatever they might be. But they must be standards nonetheless. So either internal goals or external standards that we use as a scorecard, because that provides the opportunity for victory. No scorecard, no victory. No objective measuring stick, then I just think you're blowing smoke. Or conversely, I think you're just picking on me. But when I have that objective standard, then the manager, leader, director doesn't have to say a word. Just, there's a standard, here's where we're at. Or there's a standard, here's where we're at. Woo! Pride. And then that needs to be regularly communicated. Regularly communicated. And whether that's a newsletter, whether that's that Eagle of the Week approach. And side note, I'm totally against Employee of the Month. Totally against it. Why? Because that's one winner and a number of losers. But you just said you pick out one Eagle of the Week. Yeah, but that means I'm getting 52 in that group, that subgroup a year. Well, what if there's only 9 people in that group? Okay. Awesome. We're going to be celebrating somebody every 9 weeks. Or, maybe we will be celebrating one every 9 weeks. What if it's the same person over and over again? Then there's a problem with your sub-manager, with your direct report. What if they don't come with anybody doing anything great? There's a problem with your direct report. Right? Either they're not recognizing above and beyond performance, or they're not being a catalyst for above and beyond performance. Yeah, but what if they're just exceptional all the time? I would be jumping for joy and celebrating that every moment of the day. Well, that becomes trite. Hey, if this is the standard and you have employees performing here, don't you think you better be celebrating that every minute of the day? And then finally, I think with technology you could do some cool things too. What about just creating a director's YouTube message that you used internally? Hey everybody, just wanted to give you a quick message and tell you what's been going on the last month. We did this, and in that department they did that, and this place they did that, and this place they did this, and this place they did that, blah, blah, blah. How hard would that be? It's a webcam, recorded, posted to YouTube. You send it out to your managers. They show it in their meetings. I mean, literally, it would take minutes to do. Minutes to do. Hey, that's just, want to give you a quick update. Thank all of you for your hard work, especially if you have a large department. Now, should that supplant you getting off your big fat couch? Thought I was going to say something else. And getting out with the people? No, it's not to supplant that. It's just to say, if you did that every month, in addition to getting out with the people, what could be the power of that? So those are just some tools, some ideas. But make no mistake, I got to regularly communicate the above and beyond performance to create that vicarious pride. Okay, that's departmental pride. Those are some sequential steps that I think of taken will build departmental pride. Side note, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm going to send you some reinforcement emails. 7-minute video, 7-minute video, 5-minute video to reinforce this information. I think it's that important. I think if we can learn how to build pride, the impact is significant. All right, now let's look on the other side, individual pride, because it is different than building organizational pride. Step number 1, we've got to clarify to the employee the importance of their specific task in this bigger important why. See, I can look at it and go, yeah, well, everybody else's job is important, but I just move paper from here to there. Yeah, but everybody else's job is important, but I'm just a lowly fill in the blank. For those of you that have parks in your portfolio, in all the different departments we have participating, there's all kinds of different portfolios. But those of you that have parks in your portfolio, or those of you that have facilities in your portfolio, it's very easy for that groundskeeper 1 sometimes to feel like their work is unimportant because the only time they get a call is when something's out of order. It's very easy for that custodial or janitorial individual who helps you with your facilities and the cleanliness and maintenance thereof for feel like their work is a little unimportant because the only time they get called is when things aren't right. And in the nature of some of the work within our portfolios, that is the nature of the work. We only get called when things are out of place. Otherwise, it's just taken for granted that it's working and nobody says, great job, it's working. They don't know the time, energy, and effort it takes to just get it working and keep it working. So it's important to be able to draw a very dark line for that employee of how their specific task and their specific effort contributes to this more altruistic, bigger picture goal of building this great community. I use that parks because it's very self-evident. If I go to a park and it's not well maintained and it's not clean, it will imply that it's not safe. And it's not safe, then I won't come with my kids. And if I don't come with my kids, then we don't spend time together, especially in difficult economic times. And if we don't spend time together, then there's no relationship. When there's no relationship, kids fail. So are you saying that the cleanliness of the park contributes to kids failing? Yes, I'm saying that. How about the maintenance and cleanliness of a facility? When a citizen walks into a facility that's poorly maintained, it sends a message to them about stewardship. It sends a message to them about the confidence they can have in government. It sends all kinds of messages to them, including this. I don't know if I should give them any more money in the next bond election. They can't take care of the money they got. All of a sudden, the person that's responsible for the cleanliness and the maintenance of that facility is a big deal. But have you connected that dot? I was looking outside an airplane once. I was looking at a mechanic, and I was sitting on the tarmac, and he had this big wrench, and he was leaning on this wrench. I mean, just leaning on it. I know we have questions. I'm talking about that. So he was leaning on this wrench as hard as he could possibly do. And I thought to myself, why is he leaning on that wrench so hard? And then I thought, because he knows thousands of people, or at least on this plane today, hundreds of people, lives are in his hands. If he doesn't give a maximum effort to torque that wrench as hard as he possibly can, something could go wrong. Well, I would suggest to you, when we clarify employees, how their specific role has value, meaning, and purpose, they take on that same feeling. Oh, wow, people are counting on me. Oh, wow, we have a ripple impact. Oh, wow, I didn't draw that line. I didn't see that. And when that light bulb goes off, I see this. I better do a good job. It's a funny thing, man. You say, Ian, that's too nuanced. That doesn't happen. You know it happens. You've seen it happen. It maybe hasn't even happened with you. I didn't realize the importance of that. Okay, I'll make sure I do it better. Step number 2, establish job-specific, objective, measurable performance standards. Now, I know we could have an argument about human resources and your human resources director and departments and third-party representation and books this big between us and that group that tells us how we're going to operate and how we're going to run and all that, and their job's performance and what they can do. I know all that. You don't have to send me emails. However, it is a proven fact that the more specific we can be in job description and the evaluation tools for performance management that we utilize, the more specific we can be to that task, the more effective. Now, you may have a municipality-wide or an organizational-wide evaluation form that's formally used, but you could have some informal tools as well about that specific task. Well, we don't have that. How would we build that? You know what I have done in the past? I've just gotten the employees together and I've said this. Well, what makes somebody good at this task? What's it important to do in this task? What's it important to know in this task? What's it important to follow through on in this task? What are the important skills or attributes in this task? And the employees tell you. And then you just use that as the basis of your kind of a job-specific evaluation. It's not brain surgery. Does it take a little bit of sweat? Yeah, it takes a little bit of sweat. Well, I got to get it approved by human resources. Okay. And that might be an uphill battle. But even if you informally have some measuring sticks, where amongst the group you've talked about, these are the attributes of a good blank. And here's some ways that we would measure that. That's a positive. Any steps you can take to being specific are of value. So I've shown the individual that their specific task connects to this bigger picture, and that's why it's so important that they do it well. Then I've got some way to measure that, to let them know where they stand. Then I regularly measure or provide that score to the employee. Now, annual reviews, great. But you know what? It's too long. If you're only going to keep score on how I'm doing once a year, it will be very simple for me to get in a rut. So a couple concepts, a couple ideas. One is what I call speed evaluation, kind of like speed dating, where we just sit down and say, how's it going? Now what's funny is, especially with you and your direct reports, the delegation matrix is a perfect excuse for that conversation. And the delegation matrix actually becomes this. Because I'm either moving tasks into the next category or I'm moving tasks back. Right? We should be growing. So by having that regular conversation, well, I don't have time for that. That's why I do it short and quick. Maybe there's only 3 key components we talk about in that 90-day chat. Or maybe there's only 2 or 3 priorities. But we have a chat nonetheless. And if you go back to one of the initial assignments I gave you or recommended that you do, where I asked you to send out a questionnaire about your performance, if you've done that, it then makes it very easy to then go talk about their performance. Because the implication is, hey, I asked you about mine, and now let's talk about yours. But I led the way by getting feedback on me, and now I'd like to talk about you. That's reasonable. We talked about me, now let's talk about you. So by providing that regular measurement. Now another place that you could do it is within the departments, having some kind of scoreboard, some kind of place of celebration, some kind of tool that we use, a visual that we use that lets us know where we stand. Are you saying individual performance is up on that wall? No, but I certainly am saying individual excellence. Anytime somebody does well, get it up there. And then when we as a group do well, get it up there. Make it a visual, make it a big deal. What's the old adage that, inspect what we expect and celebrate and reinforce what we hope for. Inspect what we expect and then celebrate and reinforce that performance that we want, what we hope for. We know that out of our kids, right? When our kid does something positive, we cheer, 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 cheer in an attempt to get them to do it again and again and again and again to establish that habit. So on the individual pride side, what's the scorecard? If you wanted to simplify this, what's the goal? What's the role? What's winning look like? What's my individual goal in this bigger picture thing? What's my individual role in the bigger picture thing? And how will I know if I'm achieving that goal and role, or achieving the goal and fulfilling my role? If I can't articulate that to staff, then you can almost guarantee you're not going to see pride. You might see individual pride and pockets of it just because it wouldn't matter who their boss was or who the framework was that they were working within. They would just take pride inherently. Celebrate in informal and formal ways those that meet and exceed the standards. Coach those that do not meet the standard using the coaching that we've discussed before. So I shared with you what we shared with your direct reports. I'm going to assume, since you're an executive leader, you know how to coach performance and have a system thereof. If you don't, go back to systems. There's a great hour teaching on there. There's a great diagram, much like this, talks about how to do it and how to do it departmentally. So what are some informal ways that we could celebrate? Well, one of the informal ways that we could celebrate is also a way for gathering thoughts, ideas, and concerns. Remember when we talked about gathering thoughts, ideas, and concerns? And we talked about that informal gathering of thoughts, ideas, and concerns? We talked about getting out with the people and making that regular, seemingly spontaneous, but regular. Well, watch what happens. See how these converge. If I'm regularly doing that Eagle of the Week or something like it, where I'm hearing of the great stories, and I'm getting out every week, then this happens. Charlie, hey, buddy. Great work, man. I heard about the great idea you came up with so-and-so and such and such. Awesome, my friend. Absolutely awesome. You're making us better. Janet, hey, thank you so much. You pointed out where we were really deficient, and you know what? That was very insightful, very wise. You know, I've always known you to be like that. I thank you. And then the other employees hear that. Again, return on investment, time invested, return on investment. So because I've heard of the Eagle stories or the above and beyond stories, when I'm out and about, I can reference them and celebrate them in front of everybody informally. And you know the other thing that it sends? It sends this message. How does he know what's going on all the time? He really knows everything that's going on. Well, no, I don't know everything that's going on, but I give the impression of knowing what's going on. This is stupid, and I'm not encouraging this. I used to leave my light on in my office. Always. Never close my door. So that people would walk down the hallway and go, is he still here? You're a jerk, Ian. Well, I don't know. Okay, that's informal. How about formal ways? I told you, handwritten notes. Certainly things going in people's file. But how about this one? How about sending letters of commendation and thanks for exceptional performance to people's homes? How about sending a formal letter to their home so it can be read in front of the family or be opened in front of the spouse or shared with the kids? Pride. I'm proud of my dad. I'm proud of my mom. See, only an executive leader can be magnanimous. Only you as an executive leader have the capacity to be magnanimous. And it means something. That's really a gift that you can give. I used to send letters home. And the reason I sent the letters home is because I wanted that letter open in front of a family member, so that the family member would look at the father or mother with pride. With pride. There is nothing more powerful than a mom or dad being proud because their kids are proud of what they do. You and I both know that many of our employees routinely show off for their kids the work. See that bridge over there? I maintain that. Or see that park over there? I'm responsible for that. Or, you know, when we had that big flood, well, I stepped in and we did this and we did that. Mommy's work is important. Daddy's work is important. I'm proud of my mom and dad. Well, it shouldn't take work to do that. I agree, but it certainly is a contributing factor. Only you can be magnanimous. Only you can send that letter. Or the mayor, or the commissioner. Get them to do it. Just get their signature and send it out. I'm going to tell you, man, that in today's day and age, as people are beaten down and beat up, not just within the industry, but life in general, being able to be magnanimous, what does that mean? Giving and lifting people up. A word of encouragement. A letter of celebration. A note of commendation. Send that thing home, man. So that little boy or that little girl can look up and say, man, I'm proud of my daddy. Man, I'm proud of my mommy. You know, I got to tell you something. As an executive leader, you have that power, but you also have the power to demean. You have the power to belittle. You have the power to destroy. You have the power to make people cynical and jaded and crusty. Or you have the power to inspire loyalty, commitment to purpose, innovation. You have that power. And I would suggest to you, it's not passive. In other words, one or the other is happening. Even if it's neutral, then we're missing the opportunity. So, informal and formal ways. In all instances, assure the standard is being applied equally and consistently. No quicker way to destroy pride than unequally measuring out the standard. You just cut pride off at the knees, man. You just hacked it off at the knees. Whoosh, when you do that. When we measure it out equally, then people know it's real. People know it's objective. And people know they can trust it. Then they'll let themselves be evaluated by it. They'll judge themselves by it. You won't need to. All right, we only got a few seconds left, so I know that I've dominated today's question and answer with this information. But I told you I was going to. I told you in the teaching session that we would go through pride. Now, last thought, because I think it's critical. It's right there in the middle. Remember to ask yourself, why should my people be proud to work for me? Why should my people be proud to work for me? Again, I think that's an intentional exercise. I think we should, as leaders, pick out those things that our people can absolutely guarantee from us. Can they guarantee innovation from us? Can they guarantee problem solving and brainstorming to come up with good ideas from us? Can they come up with that we're experts in a certain field and they can turn to that? Can they come and to guarantee that there's a listening ear or always a kind word? See, any of those things would make a person proud to work for that guy or gal. See, I think you can be flawed. I think you can have foibles. I think you can come up short again and again and again. As long as the people know that there's some redeeming qualities they can absolutely count on. And when those redeeming qualities outweigh the flaws and the foibles, they're proud to work for you. They're at the family barbecue and say, man, I'm proud to work for my boss. They're at their place of faith and say, man, I'm proud to work for my boss. They're at their social setting and they say, man, I'm proud to work for my organization. They wear that team T-shirt from the event that you had, the organizational event, with pride. They wear the logo wear with pride. Many studies show that a lot of that emanates from the person they call leader and the person they call big boss. But when they think the big boss is inept, when they think the big boss is a slacker, when they think the big boss is doesn't care, the likelihood of pride occurring is minimal at best. Or at least it will never reach its full potential. So I ask you over the next 7 days to ask yourself, why should people be proud to work for me? It's a tough question, I know. I have to ask it of myself routinely. But when we take on the position or role of executive leader, when we put on the mantle of community builder, we got to ask ourselves tough questions. Pride. And I know that there's questions that came in. Mel is looking at me like, oh, we didn't get to all these questions. So I'll make sure that we get to all the questions. I'll go through them and we'll answer them and respond to them accordingly. And I'll get to you. And I can't thank you enough for your hard work and energy. I can't thank you enough for your leadership. And I'll reiterate what I said at the beginning. I'm counting on you. Don't like my evaluation of pride? Don't like the system? That's fine. Just have a system, because it is one of the most powerful forms of human capital that you have at your disposal. Learn how to deploy it. Learn how to utilize it. You learn how to maximize it, both for individuals and for your organization. We're going to send you that accountability, letting you know how people have participated. We'll send an explanation in the email as well. We only have about 7 weeks left of this thing, so make sure you've picked out your one thing. I've sent you notes for the last couple days and the coming days about how's your one thing coming along, and then finally, life's 5 most urgent questions. Life's 5 most urgent questions. Have a great weekend. Thank you for all your hard work. Take care, everybody.